morning, everyone. Um, so, CSR in India has its roots through philanthropy right from the industrialization era, which is 1850 to 1914. But do we really have to agree that CSR has been there only since 1850? CSR has been around for civilizations, for generations. We've been watching in movies how the kings used to give donations to their families, and that's how CSR evolved. But let me just get into the, yeah. Okay. Even in India, if we talk about CSR, uh, the organizations have been doing it for quite some time, and that evolved actually as a social development initiative between the government and the organizations, right? But eventually, there were too many regulations that were coming into picture, and what needs to be taken into cognizance is Mauritius was the first country that had made CSR mandatory, which was in 2009. And in 2014, following the amendment of the Companies Act in 2013, India made it mandatory, and followed by various other organizations, various other countries. And this is mainly looked at businesses using their profits to eliminate poverty, support in education, and then eliminate hunger. My question is, there are different definitions when people talk about CSR, donation, and then philanthropy. Ideally, they all look the same, sound the same, feel the same, but all of them are different. When we talk about donation, donation is where you give someone something and then you forget about it. Philanthropy is something which someone who's been earning a lot and then who wants to donate it to the society does it. But when we talk about CSR, CSR comes with a responsibility. And all it means is there is an impact that needs to be assessed, and there are solutions that you need to think about whether these are for the shortcomings or whether they're long lasting, right? And in the last few years, we've also seen how the NGOs have evolved in terms of implementing all these projects, right? And I've also, as a corporate employee myself, I've been working with various niche expertise NGOs where someone talks about education, someone works in menstrual hygiene management, and someone works in afforestation. And this is how NGOs have become prevalent in the last 10 years, especially since the NGO Act has come into picture. And again, SDGs were announced in the 2015 UN meeting, and we came up with 17 SDGs. And again, Schedule 7, I'm sure everyone in this room are aware about the Schedule 7 document, which is a very interesting document which talks about where you can do what and how are the impact numbers defined. But this is where I come to the most Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is where I come to the most interesting slide of mine. I've seen, as a corporate employee myself, as I already said, I've been working with various NGOs in the last 5+ years, at least, because that is when the CSR mandate has come into picture, and then people have also started. And then there were some NGOs which were working on specific sectors that were coming into picture, and then all these collaborations. And gone are those days when, let's say, menstrual hygiene management was taken as a social taboo, where people were even afraid of even using that word. But now we're implementing projects which are related to menstrual hygiene management. We're working on promoting art and culture. We're trying to reclaim lakes. We're trying to renovate stepwells. All these which will help in rejuvenation of the groundwater resources. We're also working on a project which is related to domestic violence and abuse survivors through one of our partner NGOs. And we're also working towards skill development, especially women. And even when we talk about women's skill development, there are different kind of audience that we need to look at. Urban, semi-urban, rural, and then the socio-economic backgrounds of all these people. So this is where we're working on, and then these are just evolving by day. Yeah. And again, this is another interesting slide of mine, because we've seen the last 10 years. Now we're in the 11th year actually. We've seen the last 10 years, 2014 to 2024, how the CSR mandate came into picture, and then how organizations have started taking it as a responsibility and not just as an obligation to serve the nation, to serve the society. And we've also seen how NGOs have started coming together in supporting this. But what I look at for the next 10 years is where CSR is going to be integrated with core business strategies of every organization. Though we might be looking at long-term sustainability, we might look at focus on environment, we can also look at skill development of students who are 10 plus in age, and then their long-term career guidance. This is what we will all be looking at. And there's another focus that is going to come into picture in the next 10 years, where every CSR project that we look at should include as many SDGs as possible, which will give the entire project a holistic view. And one thing that I've also been noticing in many of the organizations, and especially the organization that I represent to, is employee volunteering. It is only when you take the employees to participate in the volunteering activities is when, see, initially it is showing up that matters for any volunteering activity. And eventually when they start showing up, they realize what is the impact that they're going to create. And eventually they'll start joining these activities, and it itself will become a notion of volunteering. And the best part that I've been noticing in the last few years is NGOs. I know a time, at least I don't want to refer to my age, but I know a time where NGOs were only referred to as an organization that would take money and then implement something. But now NGOs, I've seen NGOs which are working as social corporates. They're working with the equal speed where a typical corporate organization also works at. And now this is where we come to the most important point. I am actually looking at this being the game changer for the next 10 years, where we collaborate with the organizations, which are the corporates, the NGOs, the social startups, the industry associations, which are NASCOM, AmCham, and then we also talk about government. When we collaborate with all of these five and then even beyond, that is when we will see real change coming into picture. And the more the NGOs, the more the corporates, because everyone is good at their own subject. I am good at whatever I do technically, and then NGO is good at whatever they do in their own space. And I've also seen organizations which are working on social startups, tech for good initiatives. And all these, it's only when all these 5 or 6 people sit on a table and come up with these innovative ideas is when we're going to make real change in the next 10 years. Yeah. A strong leadership pushing for a seamless execution of all CSR initiatives and taking both the stakeholders and shareholders into confidence is what is going to make a real change in the society. And on a thank you note, this is what I'll tell you. Do not feel bad. I mean, I've seen people where people are asked, what do you do in your in the service sector? Why are you even in service sector? I mean, as a corporate employee myself, I am asked, what gives you the joy being part of CSR or doing volunteering? And this is where I say, volunteering is something that comes from my heart, and I do it for my own purpose. There is nothing that I'm expecting in return, and if all of us come together, there is nothing in the world which is impossible, because the word itself says, I am possible. Thank you.